So as you see here, materials needed to cascade the Laars MFTHW heating only boilers are 1 cable per boiler. So here we're going to be cascading 2 boilers, so we'll need 2 cables. In addition to those 2 cables, we'll also be utilizing a system sensor that's available from your wholesaler. Installation of the cables require you putting 2 cables together first. Remember, 1 cable per boiler. So you're going to have 2 separate cables that are identical. Those cables have to go together to be able to make communication possible between the first and the second boiler. Your last boiler or your last follower boiler will have an end of run resistor. That end of run resistor stays in place on your last cable to your last follower boiler. So that's your final boiler in your sequence. The other end of run resistor gets removed because we're not going to be utilizing that. Where that was removed now leaves you with a female end that's going to connect to the male end of your other cable. So after attaching those 2 cables together, we're now going to be ready to install that in the system, and the system being a master and as many follower boilers as needed, up to 20. So Laars approves and allows for up to 20 follower boilers. We've removed the covers to both of these boilers, as you see. The reason that we did that is so that you can get a look at all of the wiring connections and the step-by-step programming process that we will be going through. The male portion of this cable, that is the multi-tap cable, gets plugged into the printed circuit board of the master boiler there. We've run that wiring already, showing you where that wiring from the cascade cable would go through your follower boilers and into your master boiler, provided to you via knockouts by Laars. Here you're going to be seeing that cascade cable that runs through into the boiler, making 2 cables into 1. As I mentioned earlier, you're going to be needing a cascade system sensor, which is also part of this package that goes together to cascade 2 boilers and or more. So this is where you're going to land your wiring for your cascade system sensor. And that's fine to be 18 gauge thermostat wire. You can go up to 100 feet with that. That wiring we ran through the boiler and down to get to the system supply piping. There's that system sensor now mounted on the system supply piping. The best place to put that is after any hydro that you may be using. Since both cables are identical and both have male and female Molex connectors that can be plugged into each other, since this is the master boiler, this connector is not going to be used. So we're going to take that and tuck that inside of the boiler. With the master boiler, the leader boiler's connector plugged into the printed circuit board, that cable, of course, wires and runs into the follower boilers. As many follower boilers you have, up to 20, you're going to connect from cable to cable to cable, assuring that your very last follower boiler has that end-of-line resistor in place on its cable. And that follower boiler, any of those follower boilers, will have a similar type Molex connector that gets plugged into its printed circuit board there. Tuck those cables in nice in place, and you've done that cascade wiring job. Once the cabling process of cascading those boilers on the wiring side has been completed, you can now turn power back on to both of the boilers or any of the other follower boilers that may be in sequence.